Hey guys, it is me, GreenFly, and I am going to be working on something that I haven't looked at in a long time. I do mean a long time. How long we talked about? I think it was over about 10 years ago. Definitely over 10 years ago. I'm pretty sure definitely over 10 years ago. I'm going to recreate properly this game cover that I made age ago. I think on the tip of my tongue I remember it without looking at it right now. Obviously you're seeing all the things here, all those things in the photos and the pictures and all the things, even references and little concept things that I did back then. But anyway, I'm going to get right down into it. What I'm going to do first is I'm going to do some concepts, since I haven't looked at the project so ages, and I do mean you had to blow some dust, but it's one of the ones I think in general I will probably still keep even to this day. It's one of those ones that I was quite proud of, and I got an A at the time, so of course I was quite proud of it. I wanted it back. It was kind of a big deal. So I'm going to pretty much recreate this properly through pretty much drawing it digitally, because yeah, and try and make everything, all the other parts as well. So I think I might even try to make some other things that thought to make it even just that wee bit perfect. But yeah, I think it's time we dive in. Let's do some concept stuff for it first, and then we can get right into the nitty gritty. Okay, so before we actually commit of doing this pretty much video game cover, I decided that I should do some kind of ideas of what I kind of want the dinosaur at the front cover, the Tyrannosaurus Rex, to pose. Obviously I had a few cybernetic enhancements because they're called cyber dinosaurs, but I probably might change that title to cyber dinos. That sounds a bit shorter and might fit in a little bit better with the whole title and everything else. So I decided that I'll make kind of three kind of concepts or ideas that I kind of go. One, I could decided maybe the first one, I said have him kind of like almost on his back and stuff like that. But then I kind of went, well, you've got the missile launch on his back, you might not see the rest of his face. So I went, that might not quite work. I also tried this next one because I thought, hey, that could probably work pretty well. The only thing that I kind of realised when I was doing the second one was it might take up too much. So I was like, right, okay, third time, let's dial it back a little bit, let's make it maybe a bit smaller. Like, he's still big, it's still a Tyrannosaurus Rex, but you know, not taking up the whole fucking thing. I want to make sure there's enough room for the text, the logo, everything else. It's all going to like kind of fit in just perfectly. Also, I want to kind of show every single part of this. I want to show the whole body, because in the other one, I only show like half of the body, like the wee little arms and everything else. So I decided we'll go with the third one, and yeah, we'll jump on straight on from there. So pretty much the thing I'm talking about is a school project that I did years ago. Pretty much one of my ones I was actually quite proud of at the time. But there's actually quite a significant thing about this project as well. I'm not going to be just redoing it, but I'm also going to actually do it properly this time. What do I mean by that? Well, you see, pretty much back then, this was actually the first time ever using Photoshop. Over 10 years ago. I'm going to have to check the exact date on it. Can't remember exactly the date, but if I think on the tip of my tongue, let's see, it was about 2000 and let's see, not 2012, 2011. I think the project was done 2011. So we're definitely over 10 years, I'm pretty sure. So quite a while ago. Yeah, definitely quite a while ago. This project was pretty cool at the time. I wanted to create a video game cover. That was kind of the thing. We wanted to pick our own themes and everything else. But obviously this was kind of my first time using Photoshop ever. So is it my best work ever? No, but it is actually technically my first ever time using Photoshop entirely. I threw a few other examples of it, but it's probably my final one I was actually quite proud of putting together and everything else. Pretty cool and all that. Thing that I pretty much wish I could have had access to. I think at the time, our school and stuff like that, we had, this is the first time we were allowed Photoshop in this year. Like, we were the only years, we were the first ever years to have access to this computer suite. It's quite expensive, it was all Macs, everything else. Pretty much top of the line, you can imagine. So locks away, and everyone had to write things down to pretty much say, hey, you're in this room, you damage it, you're buying it. And those were not cheap. So you can imagine, I think there was about at least 8 or 9 of them. So yeah, we were pretty much like being as careful as we could be, because oh boy. So pretty much the ones that had the most trust were allowed to use them. I got trusted a lot, which I was very awesome, and ever since I saw this software for the first time, I could not get my hands off it. And now I pretty much still use Photoshop to this day. I still use it as drawing software, I still use it pretty much as for thumbnails, everything else, you name it. Even though maybe I should think of some other softwares I should maybe use in the future, I definitely have been tampering with some of the ones, but I've used Photoshop for so long, I know its ins and outs more than any other software. Other softwares I'd probably have to definitely get used to and everything else. But yeah, pretty much as you can see from things that I've kind of been showing you all these things, as you can see here, it's, well, I kind of took images for things. There were some sketches and drawings, but we didn't have the drawing tablet and all this things, ones I've got currently here. I wish we did, that would have been amazing. I could have actually made it doing that, but I can imagine it might have not been great, because even using that the first time did take a practice to even use this. I will admit, it took time. Okay, we are on another bit. So before we 100% finish the cover, we need to add the text. Now, all those years ago, I quite liked the original idea of the custom text. I will admit, I did use a software to kind of make the text up pretty much. Kind of took some things, stuff like that, so I didn't have time to really make my own custom text. I was pretty much told, hey, you can't really spend all that time doing that, you've got to make things with shortcuts. And I was like, okay, fair enough. Time, you know, time restraints. You got, guess that's when you learn at least one thing they taught me at school, time restraints. So pretty much when I was doing this, of actually doing the custom text properly, I was quite stoked for this, because I don't do custom text that much. I think the last time I did custom text for something was for, I believe it was for somebody else, not for me per se, but I quite like doing it. When working on this, I wanted to keep the original idea. Metal for the cyber, and for the dino was bones. It was green bones, I believe, but I thought that wouldn't really work the now, so I decided let's actually make the dino look dinosauric. Dinosauric, I don't even think that's a word. You know what I mean. Scaly, you know, big tails, big sharp teeth, all that kind of dooja. What the fuck? What the hell am I saying? Anyway, when I was going over this text, it was starting to look really good. I started adding some little details to it, added the colour. I started to try to keep building up a bit more and more and more. I will admit, I was playing with a few settings because I was tweaking it and tweaking it and tweaking it, and I'm like, right, I've got to kind of call it here. The one thing I couldn't point out what was not making it look good. Then I realised I think what was the issue was it's going to stand out too much. It's got to be good, but not stand out too much. So what I did is I dulled back the black of the outlines, and I kind of made them a bit more neutral. By doing that, yes, you know the title, but it doesn't stand out of the main character that's on the cover, the cyber dinosaur, the cyber T-Rex, pretty much. So once I finished those little details for the text, I was happy, and to move on to the back of the cover. Now, if you guys remember, I had also a cyber pterodactyl. Now, you're not going to be saying too much when everything else gets added to the back, so I decided to add just a small little silhouette of the pterodactyl, and decided, you know what, let's have him blast a city way in the distance, and I think that's going to look pretty sweet and cool. Okay, so there is one thing I forgot to mention. When doing near the end of this thing, I was recording the wrong screen of the next part of the recording. I took the bathroom break. And yeah, so here's a little quick bit of the bits I added. Whoopsie, not much I can do. Now that pretty much we got the cover, it is all done for it, but it's not quite complete yet. You see, we're missing a few vital components for the box in general. So, what exactly are we missing? Well, that's quite simple actually. We're missing the disc. That's right, the disc itself. We need to make a design for this as well, because pretty much in my visual project as well, all those years ago, I also had a disc on the design as well. Now I'll admit, it was pretty much thrown in the last minute because time was very restrained on pretty much school and stuff like that, and also we weren't allowed to take these projects home at the time. Don't know why we weren't allowed to do that, but that was the rules. So, little time, much time, wasn't going to spend more on time, but anyway, we have all the time in the world to do this. So let's come up with a design to put onto this disc here. And I've also realised that my printer appears to have a setting to print on disk, so that is perfect. Very perfect indeed. Of course, we've just got to get the right size for this to make sure that we just align this perfectly on this, because we don't want this to pretty much, well, be too big or too small. Otherwise, it's gonna look very weird. So yeah, let's jump into that. And also, we need to make sure we do a little manual as well, and that way, that will just fill it in quite nicely. We are at last on the last 2 bits that we need to do for this: CD cover and the manual. So I wanted to go kind of simple for these last 2 things. Now, one of the things that I had in pretty much the concept of the project of that lovely game cover that I did all those years ago was I had a mountain, a big giant, big mountain. So I decided I think that would be a cool thing to add. Add the big mountain that I had, because I didn't add it into there, but it was also in my original cover all those years ago. So I decided to add that. I also was to add the pterodactyl again from a much further thing, but it also was like, you know what, let's also take the silhouette as well of the Cyber's E-Rex as well and put him in there as well. And since I did luckily most of the work already with the text as well, and I quite liked it, I thought that's got to be added as well. I suppose what's good is I've done luckily most of the work from the cover, and I can take some shortcut, which is great. I've done all that already. But yeah, I think this is going to look good. The disc, obviously it was on the disc, it's going to look a little bit smaller, but it's, after getting on the measurements of the sizes, it's looking pretty damn good. Now that we've done this, let's hop over and do the game manual. Okay, so the game manual. I never did a game manual for the original. Ran out of time, not much I could do, but hey, I still got an A. I'll take that pretty much all those years ago. So for the game manual, I had to look at a few game manuals, they kind of vary in different things, but just for the manual, I thought, you know what, we're going to go a bit simple. We're going to make some textures and stuff like that that kind of look kind of like prehistoric, like almost maybe kind of soil or skin, or, you know, that kind of scales or something like that. And I thought that'd be pretty cool, maybe something kind of looking like that. So after playing with a few different things, I wanted to kind of keep it quite simple. I also took the text as well, and I also of course added the instruction manual. Now let's add the final teasers and put this all together. So after over 10 years, I have finally done it properly. Cyber Dino. The pretty much game that I pretty much covered that I made all those years ago. Yes, it was called Cyber Dinosaurs, but I decided to kind of change the name a little bit to Cyber Dino. Pretty much works a little bit better instead of putting Cyber Dinosaurs. I mean, you kind of get it's a cyber dinosaur, like you kind of know it's like cybernetic enhanced, pretty much killing machines that fight each other and all that good stuff. But pretty much what I did, some improvements overall to this one than I did the original, was pretty much one of the things that I didn't have in the original and I realised was I never made an actual instruction manual. So this actually has one pretty much made, and it actually turned out really good. I actually really think this actually looks really good. You've got obviously the disc as well, a little bit, it kind of moves a little bit too much, but hey, I mean, it's not going to fall out, which is good, awesome, fantastic. Yeah, pretty much, I really enjoyed doing this actually properly. After all those years ago, I kind of took it about images and kind of cut them up and pretty much made it into that. Yes, I did one sketch, but it was kind of mostly a trace. Don't tell me, I was trying to get into a thing that I and do it properly. Also, that was my first time doing Photoshop. I've definitely improved a lot more since then. And also the tools of Photoshop have improved a lot more since then as well. But yeah, I really enjoyed going back down memory lane and actually doing this properly after all those years. So it's actually amazing to actually have this in my hand. It's an actual physical thing. It feels great. I mean, I'm glad there's a few changes that I'm glad that I did do better this time. Heck, even just the back of it looks a lot cleaner. It doesn't look as bloody. It actually looks, I'm actually happy how this looks as well. The fact that the disc looks really good as well. I just tried to keep it simple because most discs, when you kind of look at them, they're kind of simple. They're not too crazy and everything else. So I kind of did a little bit of a change like that. And the instruction manual just looks like an instruction manual, just kind of something that you kind of find in it. So went kind of a bit simple for this. Obviously took the actual title as well and made that. One of the things that I did put, as I'll kind of show you kind of seen there in the, which you will see in the final bits of the actual overall look of it, is I added a picture of the original. It's actually in here. Some concept art that I did when I was making this as well, and some kind of fake little button instruction manual is in there as well, so that looks really cool and it actually feels really pretty good, so I'm really happy with this. I think I've done enough talking. Anyway, here are the final results. Whoa.